One of the important tools, like mentioned in the previous video, is called SIPOC. SIPOC is a tool that can help to define what parts and what influences and results are important for each process. SIPOC as such is a simple tool for identifying at the high level what happens in a process. You could say that it's a very high-level process map. In most projects, you would like to conduct a SIPOC or other form of high-level process maps at the beginning of the project, because this is an excellent tool for communication, scoping the project, understanding and focusing the whole group, team, and all the external resources. SIPOC comes from the names on the left: supplier, input, process, output, and customer. So supplier are all people, functions, systems, suppliers, sources of information, or sources of materials that are related to the process. Input then tells what is the actual input. Materials, information, databases, things that are transformed, procedures, rules, laws, even physical particles. Process, of course, are the actions which take place to transform things or make things happen. Outputs are then the products or services produced by each step. So depending on the step and process, it might be databases, materials, information, sub-assemblies, or WISE, i.e. products produced. And of course, customer are people, functions, end customers, systems that receive the outputs. And as you will see in the future in the VOC materials, the customers can be internal, external, or regulatory customers. So when you look at the picture of normal SIPOC, it looks something like this. And I suggest to use post-it labs, post-it materials, or something similar, and a big brown or white base from paper or something like that to make the actual SIPOC work. Because you will find out in the process that some things you haven't seen or you have forgotten, and some things may not be related to the actual process. Here is 7 steps to develop a SIPOC. First thing is to determine the process that you will map. So you start from the middle. Most important thing is to make clear the starting and ending points of the process. Then complete the different steps of the process from start to finish. And please remember, this is a high-level diagram. Typically, a SIPOC has between 3 to 10 steps, not more. If you try to make more and longer SIPOCs, there's too much detail to understand and describe. And all steps should be written so that anyone would understand them, also the people who are not related to the process in reality. Then you identify the inputs to each stage of the process and write them clearly. For each input, you then describe and define what is provided. Is it material, information, or something else? And remember that one supplier can provide inputs to many stages. On step 5, you identify each step regarding the outputs and write them clearly again. And remember again that one step can actually give several outputs for different parts, different kind of customers. Step 6 is then to write down the customer or whoever uses the information materials databases, i.e. the output of the process or the process step. And as the last thing, draw the lines on the SIPOC to make it clear. Here is some tips to facilitate it. Like said, use post-its and brown paper or white paper. Anyway, some big paper that you can use as a base. Use the team approach. Remember, actually in quite many cases, there might not be input or an output. And remember, there is not a one-to-one relationship for process input and output. There might be areas where you don't see any connection. There will be multiple suppliers and customers feeding the same steps and getting fed by the same step. And don't draw the lines till the end. That is because you will most probably change the post-its and even their positions when you're really thinking through the whole process. And keep asking what enables these steps to happen or what comes out of this step. This is a typical SIPOC chart. As you can see, this is related to sales process. And from left, suppliers to inputs, to actual process, to outputs and customers, you do see that the points vary and the connections are going from one to another. This is another form of SIPOC. So it doesn't have to always be like it was presented before. You can use the form and model that fits your own organization, your own needs. Many people ask, why do we need to use SIPOC? Is it enough to make process mapping or value stream mapping? The reason is that this is really giving full understanding of what really happens in the process to sponsors and team. It helps to communicate, it makes the clarity for what we are doing. It highlights the possible problems or weaknesses in the process, helps to clarify the scope of your project. Remember to stay focused on what you really need to be doing. It starts to clarify the areas you will need to measure or collect data on. So it's changing the X, the factors, to Y's, the results. It highlights who are the key members of this process. And you help to put the people in your team or warn others that you will need their time, maybe as external specialists or experts. And it will work as a constant source of clarification when you are running the project. When we think about green lean again, this will help in early stage defining and helping to visualize weak points compared to current state to sustainable development requirements. It will help you to see where some elements of sustainability are lacking. It helps you to define which are the goals for sustainable development and who are concerned. It also identifies the suppliers whose materials or services are not met based on sustainable development criteria. Those suppliers then get their names first to list and actions to be done to improve things so that they can be started. So now, choose a process, complete the SIPOC, and download your work in the e-learning area onto the SIPOC assignment task that will come in your area after this.